Most B2B founders waste between $50,000 and $200,000 a year on bad hiring decisions because they either panic fire people who just needed coaching, or they keep underperformers on payroll for months while they bleed revenue. And I've worked with over 30 companies in 2025, and the ones with the healthiest sales teams all use the same 3-strike system that removes all emotion from performance management and turns it into a measurable process. So in this video, I'm breaking down exactly what each strike is, why it works, and how to actually implement it into your team so they know exactly where they stand and underperformers get removed fast instead of dragging your entire culture down. Before I break down the 3-strike system, you need to understand something extremely important, which is a strike system only works if the infrastructure exists. And you need clear KPIs that define what success actually looks like. You need a consistent call review process so you can actually measure performance. And lastly, you need a structured training cadence so when strike 2 happens, you have coaching ready. And if your company doesn't measure pipeline activity or conversion rates or even call volume, then you can't even issue a strike fairly because you're simply just guessing at performance. And the 3 strikes only works when performance is measurable and when everyone knows what the standard is, and when the company has the systems to help people improve if they're actually willing. Now, if you're a B2B founder and you're building out your sales team and you don't have clear KPIs or even a structured management performance system, fill out the type form below in the description and we'll identify what's missing from your sales infrastructure. Now let's get back into the video. Now, strike 1 happens when a rep fails to do things that they can completely control. Things like showing up late to meetings, missing calls entirely, failing to follow a specific process multiple times, not using the CRM properly, skipping different frameworks, or even something simple like missing KPI targets like dials or follow-ups. And when this happens, strike 1 is not punishment, it's simply just a correction phase where you're documenting that the rep had an opportunity to do the right thing and they simply didn't. So you're gonna go ahead and sit down with the rep, review the exact behavior that caused a strike, and you're gonna show them the data or the missed meeting or the uncompleted activity, and you're simply just identifying exactly what they need to do differently. And then from there, you wanna give them a clear expectation for what needs to change and a timeline for improvement. And the key is that strike 1 is about controllable behavior, not results they can't control. So both you and the rep are looking at the same choices they made. For example, the strike system doesn't work for, oh, you didn't close this deal, strike 1. It's more of so like, hey, from day 1, you knew that we had meetings Monday at 8 a.m. and you failed to show up without giving us a heads up. That's a strike. It's not, oh, you were unable to handle this objection, or oh, you didn't do a good enough job in the discovery. It's simply, hey, you had a KPI to hit or you had a meeting to show up to, and you did it. And these are all things that are completely controllable. And the reason we have this in place is if people can't show up to meetings on time and they're not giving you a heads up or they're not hitting their KPIs without telling you, that's a clear problem. And if it continues to happen, most business owners just allow it and other people simply follow the same pattern. So you need to nip it at the bud, let them, give them time to correct it, and then from there, you should be good. Now, if the same controllable behavior happens again and they don't improve, that's when you hit them with strike 2. And at this stage, all you're simply doing as either a sales manager or a business owner is increasing oversight. You're going to go ahead and check in with them more, make sure that they're following the process. And the reality is the goal of strike 2 is simply just to determine whether this is a willingness issue or whether they simply don't understand. But at this point, if you have clear expectations at onboarding, they should understand. And the reality is most strikes are simply just about willingness because these are all things that a rep can control. For example, if a rep is late to a sales meeting, they're making an obvious choice to be late. Or if they're not hitting KPIs, they're making a choice not to hit KPIs. And strike 2 simply shows the rep that you're actually serious about the systems and processes because you're willing to coach through it, but also that their choice matters. So that either they start making the right choices or strike 3 is coming. But the reality is with all these strikes, you should have that set up early in onboarding that they know what that looks like and they know why they're at fault. Because a rep should never be blindsided by strike 1 or strike 2 or strike 3. They should always know the exact KPIs or exact expectations once they're onboarded so that they're never blindsided by your expectations. Now, if the controllable behavior still hasn't improved after strike 1 and strike 2, and you've actually give them clear feedback, then this is where you just kick them off the team. And it's not sudden because the process was followed and everyone saw it. And everyone knew from day one, if you actually had proper onboarding, that meetings are Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 8 a.m. You have to let us know beforehand if you're gonna be late, you're not gonna show up. Here's how many dials you need to make. Here's how many KPIs you need to make. And when you do this with structure around actual controllable behavior, it simply just protects your team's culture because high performers see that you actually enforce the system and you don't let people slack off. And the reality is underperformance that goes unchecked because you didn't call it out is really what causes the best reps to leave first. But when you follow the 3 strikes based on what they can control, your team knows that you're actually serious about systems and that you're not playing games. But the reality is for example, if you have a rock star closer that is following every single process and has 0 strikes on the team because he actually follows these systems and processes, but you have a setter that's slacking off, he's not hitting his dials, showing up to meetings late, and you're not checking that out, your closer who's a rock star is gonna say, okay, well, upper management clearly does not have any actual systems and processes and rules in place. And that's gonna cause performance to drop. Ultimately, if performance drops on the setter side, the closers are gonna start to leave. So really having something in place like this is keeping everyone in check, not only performance, but also keeping your rep retention high. And here's what most founders get wrong about the strike system is that they implement it, but they're not actually communicating it properly. And the first communication happens during onboarding when every single rep joins your team. They know exactly what the strike system is, actually what it means, and what the standards are. And from here on out, this removes all ambiguity. So when strike 1 or strike 2 happens, the rep isn't blindsided or shocked. And they knew from day 1 that this was coming. Now, the second critical communication happens when you actually issue a strike. You're gonna sit down with the rep, actually show them the data and explain why they're getting a strike. And then you're gonna show them how to actually change. And this conversation removes all emotion and simply just replaces it with clarity. The rep knows where they stand, they know what's expected, and they know the path to improvement. But the reality is without this communication, the strike system simply becomes a tool for secretly rating reps, which is just gonna breed distrust. So with clear communication, the strike system actually becomes fair and transparent. Now, here's the deeper reason why the strike system is so valuable, and most founders miss it completely. Because the strike system really isn't about removing underperformers, it's about protecting your systems and processes. And I've seen so many business owners that they simply just keep sales reps that were performing decent. Maybe they were, hitting 80% of quota, but they weren't following the exact systems and processes in place. And really what this does is this allows everyone to simply just go ahead and do their own thing. They're running their calls their own way, skipping the exact framework, not using the CRM properly. And the founder thinks, oh, well, if this guy is closing deals, why should I care? But really what happens is every single rep on your team sees that one person is getting away with not following the system. And if he can get away with it, then why shouldn't I, right? So what you've actually done is you've told your entire team that systems and processes don't matter as much as results. And that's how you can destroy an actual scaling business, because everyone knows the way you scale is by having everything that's uniform and actual systems and processes. And if sales reps decide which parts of the system to actually follow and which parts to ignore, you don't have a system anymore, you have chaos. And the rep who breaks the system and still produces in the short term is simply showing everyone else that systems are optional. And if systems are optional in your business, your whole business becomes a collection of just individual performance doing their own thing with no consistency. So the strike system actually protects this against people just going ahead and making the system non-negotiable, regardless of whether someone is hitting the quota or not. Because if a rep who's ignoring the system Because the reality is if a sales rep is ignoring your system but hitting quota, they might drop below quota next month, and now you have no foundation to coach them because they've never actually built the habits based on your system. And if a rep who follows the system and actually hits quota, this is someone that you can count on to actually stay consistent and to actually scale. And the reality is the reason you have everything uniform, because if something isn't working properly, you can actually test it, because you can say, okay, well, this guy is doing X, Y, and Z. This is why this works, and so on and so forth. But if everyone is running a different call structure or doing call confirmations differently or scheduling appointments differently, it's very hard to see what works and what doesn't. And in reality, as a business owner, you want to see that so that you can actually know what to enforce so that you can scale. And the founders who remove emotion from performance management are the ones whose teams scale the fastest and whose reps ultimately stay because they know exactly where they stand. So if you're a B2B founder who's tired of just managing reps emotionally and you want the exact infrastructure and accountability systems that keeps your systems and processes in check, fill out the type form below and we will review your entire sales setup. Thanks, guys.